Hey guys, and welcome to my X-Men Apocalypse review. I was one of the lucky few people to actually see it before it was even released, and now that the embargo is lifted, I could actually share my thoughts on the film. Now, I'm one of the biggest X-Men fans ever. Like, it's seriously my favorite superhero team of all time. I was raised on X-Men. That 90s cartoon is epic! I have so many of the comic books. My home in Texas is still full of boxes and boxes of comic books. I was even a fan of the Wolverine in the X-Men series, even though Wolverine was front and center again. It was still a really good series. Basically, I love X-Men. And here's my review. Now, compared to the other X-Men films, X-Men Apocalypse isn't that bad. It's actually, I would consider it being one of the better X-Men films. Against the other superhero films, I would have to say I liked it less than Captain America Civil War, more than Batman vs. Superman, but still less than Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, the movie's entertaining, it does what it needs to do, but it doesn't really do anything to stand apart in the greater scheme of other comic book movies to actually make an impression and be considered one of the best comic book movies ever, because it's not. Now, the movie is generally entertaining because they do some good things. The introduction of the younger cast, specifically Cyclops, Jean Grey, Nightcrawler, Storm, that was okay. You know, you gotta see a little screen time with them, nothing too much because 20th Century Fox sucks at character development, especially in the X-Men movies. But you do kind of see a little of the relationship and nuances between the characters that are faithful to the comic books, especially the relationship between Cyclops and Jean Grey and Professor X, but it's still kind of half-assed, honestly. But it's still entertaining enough in the film. Oscar Isaac was perfect as an Apocalypse. I mean, again, perfect in the sense of cast well for the part. The way they handled Apocalypse, I mean, he's basically, the entire movie is just on the rampage of against his four horsemen, and then, you know, they have a big fight at the end, and then that's it. Nothing too crazy, too out there, overly thought out or creative, but entertaining enough to watch. Now, the one thing I've always given slack for in the X-Men films is the over-reliance on star power. In the original trilogy, they did it with Hugh Jackman. I could not tell you how many times I was just annoyed of how much screen time they would focus on Wolverine and just left the other characters with nothing. It basically made for crappy movies, which people are starting to call them out on. They're kind of doing the same thing in this new trilogy. They basically shoehorn Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique into everything, and it's annoyingly tiresome. It's just enough. Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy are awesomely cast. Like, I love them as Professor X and Magneto, but their relationship is still the same in this movie. Magneto is bad, then he's good for a little bit, and then he's bad again, and then good. It's time for Magneto to move along. Love you, Michael Fassbender, but move along. I think of the original trilogy, only James McAvoy has a place in any future X-Men movies as Professor X. I never want to see Jennifer Lawrence touch an X-Men movie again. She can join the list with Halle Berry. Like, she's done. Awesome job, but done. Now, Wolverine, of course, does have a cameo in X-Men Apocalypse, and it's actually pretty good, especially for all the fanboys out there, because you get to see Hugh Jackman in his whole Weapon X attire. So, as a fanboy, I did appreciate that, but you just kind of have to laugh, because 20th Century Fox can't make an X-Men movie without Wolverine. It's just very apparent and sad. Now, another thing that's plaguing X-Men Apocalypse is the overuse and dependence on CGI effects. Like, I love a good action sequence as much as the next person, but you can just see that they will just throw money to have cool special effects because they can't develop their characters. They have a slew of characters to choose from, and some of the characters in this movie have like 2 lines because all they do is throw money to make bridges explode and show mass destruction over here. I mean, in the third act, Magneto is basically floating in the air in his magnetic force field, which kudos to have. That's a nice little comic book thing to have. You never saw that in the movies. But he's basically just floating there for half the third act. He does nothing. It's just really sad. Now, the thing that I hate about all the X-Men movies is the wasted use of popular characters. They really just give them glorified cameos and that's it. And this movie is really no different. Psylocke, Olivia Munn's character, was completely wasted. She had like 5 lines and she didn't even have a British accent. It was so annoying. I mean, she's an actress. I'm pretty sure she could have faked a British accent. And even if it was a bad one, at least she tried and they made Psylocke English like she should have been. Or at least an English woman stuck in a Japanese woman's body, which is why she has an English accent. You know, I would have appreciated that, but no, she's American or whatever. Storm was kind of wasted, you know. I mean, the good thing is, I guess you'll see her in other movies, and at least she had an accent, you know. She didn't do a Halle Berry where, well, I mean, we don't know yet. She might sound like she's from New York in the next one, and then that is shitty. Ben Hardy was completely wasted. He really did nothing. I think he had like 2 lines, and one of them was, ah, you know, when he got his metal wings. Looked cool, but again, did nothing with him. And then Magneto, of course, was a horseman. He has his same tit for tat with Professor X of, you know, You saw in the first 2 movies, nothing's really changed. And then he does nothing in the 3rd act. So yeah, all wasted. Wasted, wasted, wasted. Now the saving grace for X-Men Apocalypse, especially for me, is Jean Grey. Sophie Turner did an amazing job, and I think they actually did some really good bits about introducing her character into the film. It's good to know that Jean Grey can actually kick some butt. You can actually see the extent of her powers. It's really hinted at that she's actually more powerful than she seems, and she's so afraid of it, that's why she's not really doing too much in the film. But the relationship between her and Professor X was really good because you can see very much has this like kind of like father protection, love for her, and that he wants to help her because her power is so vast. You see a relationship with Cyclops, start, so that's good because they belong together. And there's a lot of hints and a very big hint about the Phoenix within her because she finally gets the Phoenix Raptor around her at the end. She's basically the one that takes out Apocalypse. We all saw that coming, or at least I did. But, it was really well done. I was glad to actually see the Firebird figure around her. They actually introduced the astral plane for the first time ever. They didn't do too much with it. Apocalypse got really huge. That's the part you see in the trailer. But it was nice that they're kind of trying to step into that world of that. There's this higher plane for like telepaths that Professor X and Jean Grey have access to. But, I really, really hope they don't mess up the Phoenix Saga. I hope they don't make Jean Grey go automatically evil because that would be so wasted. There's like so much rich storyline and character development and growth for these characters in the Phoenix Saga that if they try to rush it into one movie, it's gonna suck. That'll be my next video about why the Phoenix Saga should actually be 3 movies instead of just 1 because there's too much to cover in one movie. You won't get any of the characters' growth, their story arcs. It won't be as dramatic if they rush into one movie. You won't get the payoff that Captain America Civil War was without all those other movies leading up to it. You need that. So, yeah, Jean Grey, you were the reason why I didn't extraordinarily hate X-Men Apocalypse. Well done.